Welcome to Open the Aperture, a video series brought to you by Imagix. In this video series, we look to shine more light on important topics about digital assets on the web. We will explore best practices for your images, animations, CDN, and video in an ever-evolving technological landscape. Let's get started. Hi. My name's Tom Dale, Head of Customer Success here at Imagix. This episode is all about improving your page speed with a focus on images. There's a lot to cover, so we have this episode broken up into 4 parts. Each part will be a separate video that can be watched in any order. Today, we're going to go over Google's new Core Web Vitals and why they matter. My guests are Ty Fujimura and Andrew Hines of Cantilever, a web design and development consultancy. Ty and Andrew, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us. It's great to be here. We love Imagix.
Yeah. I've been pretty excited about starting this video series. I know we've been working together for a while here, and obviously COVID puts delays and things like that, but we're all raring to go now and ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, we're very passionate about performance, and Imagix is one of our favorite tools to improve the performance of the sites that we build. And it's been really fun to collaborate with you, and we're eager to bring some of the lessons that we've learned to other people.
So let's start the discussion off with you, Ty. How important is image performance to your customers when they come to you for design and development projects?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a web design and development consultancy. So our business is specifically making websites. We're not a marketing agency or anything like that. We really specialize in this. And what we usually find when it comes to customers is that they haven't really thought too deeply about image performance, because if you're a marketer or you're a business owner, it wouldn't necessarily occur to you that there's like a bad way to do image implementation online. It's not very intuitive. And so we find that we have to kind of educate our clients a lot of the time on what the potential pitfalls of different approaches and the benefits of using solutions like Imagix. But when we explain those things to our clients, they absolutely get it. And we are able to save them money and save their users time and improve their SEO by implementing images in a really cohesive and considered way. And they really, really appreciate that. First of all, because of their own customer experience, but also because of the superior results that they get from their websites when things are optimized.
I think there was an interesting thing you also said in the very beginning. You said that the marketers and the developers, like people might just look at this right away and think this is a developer thing. This is something about websites. I don't know, but it involves the marketers so much as well. Like that idea of the SEO score, making the site more discoverable on Google. Like, I think that's just a really important aspect, that this shouldn't just sit with the developer. This needs to be something that marketers need to be interested in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy to define success when it comes to very overt visual aspects of websites, but the savviest marketers and business owners and all the folks watching this video are interested in going deeper and understanding how they can, fine-tune things. And what's really interesting is that when I say fine-tuning, it is a very technical art, which we'll get into, but it can have very substantial effects. We're not talking about small effects here. So speaking of the Core Web Vitals, Google released some data that showed that for sites that satisfy the good category of all of those Core Web Vitals, their user retention was 24% higher. So imagine if all of your ads could be 24% less expensive, or you just got 24% more traffic overnight. That's essentially the kind of business impact that we're talking about just by optimizing your website. And it's very difficult. There's a lot of steps involved, but it's doable. And Imagix is one of the tools that can help you do that.
Yeah, and it's utterly worth it to think that you could increase that by 24%. I mean, that would just be amazing.
Yeah, for an e-commerce business, that might be 24% more revenue. So, nobody's going to turn that down.
Now, during this series of videos, we are going to focus on actually running Google Pagespeed Insights tests on websites. And I just want to kind of maybe explain a little bit why we're choosing that tool. Personally, I love sharing these tests with customers during like account reviews, showing them a tool that isn't necessarily my tool, it's just kind of a neutral tool. And it can show them right away that it's Google that cares about this. And if Google cares about this, you need to care about this. and just showing them the actual tool, they can go over it themselves, continue to fine tune it and go through it. I find that really helpful. I kind of wanted to see maybe from you, how often do you find yourself going over these with customers?
Yeah, actually, I'll defer to Andrew because he's usually the person who's handling those interactions. But it's something that we often do with our clients. So yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. We have kind of a vast array of clients. Some of them are long-running clients with long-running websites. We also have new builds that are coming out every couple of weeks or months. And the Pagespeed Insights tool is something that we leverage both for our existing clients and for the new builds. When we're doing it with new builds, we're doing it with setting a benchmark for performance and essentially proving to our clients that we have delivered on the performance requirements that they've put in front of us, and we've done a good job of that. With our existing clients over time, it's also something we're comparing those benchmarks to over time. When you're working with a long-running code base, you want to ensure that not only is it continuing to keep up with the business requirements, but you're not making changes that potentially degrade the performance over time. Something that works really great out of the box, if you tinker with it too much and you're not paying attention, can get a little bit worse over time. And so we keep coming back to the Pagespeed Insights tool, kind of month after month, quarter after quarter, to hold ourselves accountable and make sure that we're keeping up with the performance that our clients require.
Well, as you keep showing this to your clients, I do feel like same for our customers, they start getting used to this tool, right? But then all of a sudden you got Google coming out with this big new update, this Core Web Vitals, and it's kind of like getting people worried or shaky. And I think that's what we really wanted to focus a bit more on, was what this update actually is going to be, what it means. And to me, I think the bottom line is that people are going to leave your site if it takes too long to load. And I think Google wanted to emphasize that idea with these 3 items in the Core Web Vitals. So maybe we can explain what each one is and kind of talk about them. I think that'd be helpful. So looking at the 3 items, they're called largest contentful paint, first input delay, and cumulative layout shift. So let's go ahead and start with the first one, largest contentful paint. I think when you think about this one, it's often an image, but it doesn't have to be. It's the largest thing in the beginning that's loading. I find it's often, maybe if it's an image, it's above the fold right away when you come to the site, probably in a hero image. And it's this idea that the heaviest thing is going to take a little bit longer to load and really delay everything in your site.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. And what Google has done with the latest updates is these metrics are things they've reported in their tools in the past, but their tools have reported wider ranges more prominently of lots of different kinds of numbers. And those numbers kind of all factor into the new Core Web Vitals sort of focus areas. But what they've done with the Core Web Vitals is made them very, very user oriented and they're almost qualitative. And it's a little bit challenging because, the qualitative aspect of them is what leaves them a little more open to debate or to maybe the metrics being off in certain cases. But it's admirable, in my opinion, that what they've done is tried not to pin things to a number that could easily kind of be manipulated, but to the actual experience that a user is going to have. And that's what we really all should be focused on. So I appreciate the way that they've shifted that. And with the largest contentful paint, I think it's very intuitive, when you go to a website owner or marketer to say, well, when the user first comes to the website, we want to show them what they're going to see in that initial viewport as fast as possible. And we want it to be as accurate as possible to the final way that the page will look when it's loaded. And that's everyone's initial impression of the speed of a website. So even if as you're scrolling down the page, new things have to get loaded in, you will still feel that the site was responsive if you hit that URL or tap a link and then almost instantaneously you see the body of the page that you're expecting. So I think it's a really high quality heuristic to focus on. And it requires both statistical analysis, which you can do through these Google tools, but also a qualitative sort of expert judgment from your own testing and your own people.
Well, and the nice thing is this test is actually going to identify what the largest contentful paint is. Obviously, when you find it and let's say optimize it or improve it, it's going to switch, right? Maybe switch to something else. So you kind of might find yourself just chasing this thing constantly as you keep optimizing things. But since it's not really like one thing, that's why we're not necessarily doing like a whole episode on it, because we're kind of going to keep touching on it through each of the episodes, because it might be related to a hero image not being size correct. It might be related to an image not being the right format or encoded correctly. So that's lots of different reasons that could affect it. So you're just going to kind of see that constantly brought up again, I think, for each of these episodes. So I'll move on to the next one, the first input delay. So first input delay, it's the idea that when a user first interacts with a website, how long does it take for that site to respond to that, to do the action, right? This really typically isn't related directly to images. It's going to probably be more of that kind of idea of what front end are you running, what back end, what APIs, what third-party scripts do you have going? And man, it's a big beast to tackle and untangle, right? Yeah. But I mean, so I think of all the three, you're going to see us probably talk about this one the least in the upcoming episodes. But I do think it's quite important to maybe bring up and at least address what it is, right? One of the top things that kind of comes to my mind right away for first input delay is the idea of having maybe a newer front end, like a Jamstack front end or a headless, setup. Maybe you're using Vue or React or Next or something like that. And these kind of front ends have a much lower delay. And when I think about those front ends, they connect so well with APIs to other services like Imagix. It really works together so well. Like thinking about like a headless commerce situation, and you easily just send the images over. Imagix is optimizing right away, and it just lowers the delay so quick. So, although first input delay, I think, is of these three the least related to images, it certainly can think of the idea of covering best practices and trying to get more modern front ends. And the great thing is that Imagix is just an API that works with whatever setup you have. So you don't really have to worry about changing images when you switch to maybe a more modern front end.
Yeah, well, and that is true. But one pitfall there is sometimes if a Jamstack website or a website that's using some newer frameworks is not properly optimized, it could sort of paradoxically end up being a worse first input delay because there's so much JavaScript going on. So you need to be sure to architect your application in a way that it will be efficient. And one of the things we'll talk about in the series is using the Imagix JavaScript library, which is incredibly handy. And it is very fast and very lightweight. But you do need to be mindful of implementing it in the correct way so that it doesn't interfere with any of those metrics. So that's all very, very doable. And I think in an ideal world, all those applications would be lightning quick, but we've seen our fair share of implementations that aren't that way. So it's just something to look out for when you're in that JS heavy environment, that your user inputs are very, very quick and that you are not causing lots of code to be loaded for someone to use a form after they've started or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The next one I want to talk about is the idea of cumulative layout shift. So this is the idea that you probably all experienced. You're writing in the BART, the tube, whatever it is, and you're trying to open an article, and all of a sudden you opened it, but then the whole thing shifts. Like the images load in or some kind of text loads in, and all of a sudden you're not looking at whatever it is you want to look at. You're at the bottom of the page, you're at the top, and it's just driving you bonkers. For me at least, right? So that idea of cumulative layout shift, it's actually measuring how the site maybe shifts and changes as it loads. So you kind of have a couple different things here related to the idea of images that could really affect this. I'm thinking about the idea of lazy loading images, or maybe bringing in some kind of a low quality image placeholder to also come in to fix these images. So we are going to kind of talk about this a lot in the idea of the lazy load section episode. I know you, Andrew, I think you and a lot of solutions, you end up using lazy sizes too for this, right?
Yeah, we do. Lazy sizes is one of those tools that just is the de facto standard for us right now. Um, we'll talk about this more when we get into the lazy sizes, the lazy loading episode. There is an API that's being put together and has some browser support for kind of existing browser native lazy loading. But lazy sizes by far provides the best support, and it works wonderfully with ImageX. The idea is essentially to keep it very simple, that you only load images in that you actually need, that are present on the viewport or about to be used. And coming back to cumulative layout shift, that's one of those things where implementing that kind of improperly can run you into issues where you're dealing with a lot of cumulative shift. When you're loading your images in, you need to kind of predefine the aspect ratio and the size that you want to use, so that you don't wind up accidentally shifting a user and making them click a link they didn't mean to.
Yeah, and ImageX will actually help a lot with this immediately, just by serving images much faster than your normal web server will. So you're already going to be ahead, even just by switching to a tool like that. However, as Andrew said, there are key aspects of the implementation that you need to be very careful about, and those are very well documented within ImageX documentation. But we will be able to dig into that in the video series and show kind of how this can actually be implemented in real life to avoid layout shift, provide a great user experience, and even go above and beyond just preventing layout shift, but providing, like you mentioned, low quality image placeholders or other advanced techniques like that. So there's a lot of ways to provide a really great user experience, and ImageX as a tool makes it very, very seamless to do so.
I really like the new verb you just created there, Andrew, lazing. I can imagine.
I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah, I think there's going to be like a post episode. It's just lazing with Andrew, and then you'll just.
Yeah. I love it. I'm in.
So it's been great discussing the Core Vitals update with both of you, and this is really just the beginning of this discussion. We have 3 additional videos which will go over how to improve your page speed scores by resizing images, lazy loading, and next-gen image formats. If you would like to try using ImageX yourself, we offer a free forever plan, which you can sign up for today at imagex.com. If you would like to get the best help with web design and development consultancy, I would recommend that you go to cantilever.co. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because we'll have more great content coming out. Talk to you next time.